All right, it is 1:15. I volunteered to introduce myself to save our poor room mod one less thing to do. So my name is Brenna Leith. I am a senior security architect at SAS Institute in Cary, North Carolina. SAS, not Scandinavian Airlines. And it's an analytics company, data analytics and big data. So you may or may not have heard of it, but anyways, that's where I work. So I have been the head of product security for about 2 years, and I just switched back to an individual contributor role this month. So I will tell you a little bit about scaling product security with a product security lead program. So give you a little overview of the journey that we're about to go on together. Define the target operating model for the program. Define the roles and responsibilities of the product security lead role against the other roles that may or may not exist, depending on how you are structured. Review and select your candidates, train them, mentor them, and turn them into security professionals. But first, let me tell you a little bit about why I did this. So you may or may not remember there was a pandemic and there was a quarantine. There was a whole remote work shift. Everybody was at home. A bunch of people got sick. And a lot of introverted people continued to be really introverted. So in November of 2020, I had a small product security office, of which I was a member, a manager, and 4 people. So central product security office supporting a few thousand engineers. 3 months later, the Great Resignation kicked in, and the team left one by one until it was just me, supporting several thousand engineers. What the hell? So I was faced with a choice by my wonderful VP and leadership team, which was, you can become the head of product security and rebuild the team, or you can be an individual contributor and we'll hire a manager for you. So when faced with those 2 choices, I decided to build the team myself. However, then I had to figure out how, in a talent shortage in the market, along with really competitive, now completely astronomical prices, I was gonna figure out how to just get a whole security team out of thin air that I was gonna lead, while also, doing all the security work that has to get done on a regular basis. So it was kind of an emergency, actually. So I asked my leadership team to help because I was drowning. So they asked me, okay, tell us what you need. And I said, all right, I need people and I need you to give them to me, and we're gonna do this product security lead program because that's the only way I can think of to get people as fast as possible and spin them up. So I made these little graphics, and I'm not a graphics designer, so if you like them, you can clap, and if you don't like them, please don't tell me because then I'll feel self-conscious. But that's the little icon that I've been using for product security leads. Thank you very much. You're so friendly. So we'll start by talking about the target operating model for your organization for this program generally. So what is a product security lead program? I know many of you are gonna say, isn't that just security champions? The answer is no, so we'll get to that. But basically, in an organization with silos, whether or not they like to admit to calling them silos, you need people, boots on the ground, who are in those parts of the organization to which you have limited visibility. So you need a divisional employee in that vertical who understands the unique needs of their divisions, their products, what their markets are trying to do, actively engages with the security champions in each of those areas. They take your central organizational security program strategy, and then they can interpret it in an executional way for their division. So basically, they then become the link between the central product security office, who is setting the policy, standards, processes, tooling strategy for the divisions, and the actual product teams who are making the stuff you are trying to secure. So, why do you care, or why would that be useful to you and to the industry as a whole? So, obviously in 2020, but with the Great Resignation and talent shortage, you already heard a lot of people, if you were at RSA, they were saying it was a crisis. So I told you I was gonna pop my P's microphone. Anyways, in the outlook for 2023, the available potential workforce isn't keeping up with demand. So people are calling that like a lack of interest for people entering the job market, barriers to entry, whatever you want to call them. Usually it's budget for me, but anyways, if we need more than 3.4 million security professionals in the industry, we're gonna have to figure out how to make some fast. So hiring is hard. It is time consuming to interview candidates, and I was picky with the full-time security people that I ended up hiring for the team. One, because I didn't want to have to work with them and then hate them. And two, there's a lot of people out there who are spinning some crap on their resumes, and you really got to cut through the chaff. So make them run the gauntlet in those interviews and don't hire the wrong people, because that's going to cost you more in the long run. But pay the good ones what they're worth, because they will save you more money than they cost you. But we still need to mine the hidden gems. So that's the people that are around you who have the skills and the aptitude and the desire to learn. However, where are they? What are they doing? Because they can't just come up to me in the hallway and say, I want to be on the security team. I got to figure out, like, who are the right people and what are those skills that I am actually looking for that are going to indicate to me they're going to be a good security architect or security engineer or product security lead. And the burnout is real. That is why I just gave up the head of product security position, because I'm so tired and I am so burned out. It's been a long couple years of rebuilding this team and also building a product security leads team. But your teams are all feeling it too. And if your teams have not told you that they're having burnout problems, I want to join your team. But anyways, what's the scope that we're looking at? I'm just going to talk about my experience, and you can sort of map it to your own experience, because there are a lot of different reasons why this might be an applicable avenue for you. So SAS has over 200 analytic products and cross-industry solutions. So that's a lot for a really small central security team to be able to see what is going on. We have 3 software as a solution and database platforms. That does not include multiple other things that the solutions might be doing in professional services and hosting. We sell in 150 countries. We have over 80,000 customer sites, 12,000 to 15,000, I don't really know the exact number. Anyways, I'm in research and development, and that's somewhere between 4,000 to 5,000 people. So when faced with the challenge of being the only full-time security person, you can imagine you have to scale pretty fast. So my first thought was, all right, here are all of our divisions and our business verticals. There's like 14 of them, and then there are other areas like DevOps engineering, documentation, and things like that. So if you needed visibility into each one of these things and a way to drive and scale consistency of security execution, product security leads. So to make it a little bit more graphical, again, you can complement my graphics. The chief technology officer in our organization has R&D and some of the business verticals. So our R&D is sort of divided, as in we have product strategy that sets the vision and the requirements. So we've got like product management, security, compliance, and strategic operations of R&D. So underneath engineering and lines of business, there are all of those divisional leaders and product teams that are organized by business verticals. So strategy versus execution. We tell you what to make, you figure out how to make it, ideally. So you've got these business verticals. Maybe they're doing IoT, maybe they're doing data management, maybe they're doing things you don't know about. So then you've got your divisional leaders, and then they've got all their people. And underneath them are a conglomeration of product teams who may be doing Agile, they may be doing DevOps. They're doing what works for them. You're not trying to tell them how to live their lives. But meanwhile, you're all the way over there on the left without a lot of visibility or control into what any of these people are doing. And worse, they don't really understand what's being asked of them a lot of the time, because all they've got is like policies, standards, processes, tools, and one lonely person trying to answer all their questions in Microsoft Teams. May or may not have been me. So product security leads, there's my graphic, report directly to the divisional leadership heads, and then they form their own team, their self-organizing team, although they're not literally on the same team, they are in spirit. They matrix into me, so I'm giving them security strategy as well as mentorship, growth advice, etc. And then they also support their product teams. So I know you're saying, wow, this sounds like such a huge amount of work. How did you do that? So in March of 2021, as in like 2 months after the whole team quit, it took me about that long to like get the idea, put the strategy together, get the executive buy-in. But I also started knowing pretty well where all of our like weaknesses and gaps were, because I'd already been part of some pretty hefty like compliance assessments and been keeping up with my hygiene of maturity models. So I knew where we needed help desperately and where we weren't so bad off. In June of 2021, so it took roughly 3 months after the HR buy-in and the executive buy-in, hiring. So interviews and then training and onboarding. So about 90 days there. And then I left because I had a baby. Oh, spoiler, I was pregnant this entire time. So then I left and went on maternity leave for 5 months. So built 2 teams and then just like dipped out completely. So the first trimester and the second trimester and the third trimester is really how I can tell you how long it took to build this team and to get them functioning. It took me long enough to grow a human out of food and blood. So what happened while I was gone? Hey, Log4j. So your head of product security is gone. You have a brand new team of product security leads who are not security professionals that you've just trained yourself out of thin air, and like 2 new employees. It was bad. So they set out the alert, and then, product security leads to the rescue. Amazing. Actually, my VP said when I came back, the way that the team executed in your absence was a testament to your leadership. Thank you. Where am I now? Well, you know, my desk is just totally spotless. I have perfect focus. It's really serene, and just kidding, it looks like shit. But I have chaos and a chaos monkey. See what I did there? Anyways, that is why I went back to individual contributor. Anyway, where were we? Back to the target operating model. So how could you get started if you need to figure out a way to scale, having eyes in the back of your head, under your sofa, wherever you need them? You start with reviewing your security posture. So if you're not already doing this, do it regularly. Maturity model assessments, there are free ones like OWASP SAM. There are proprietary ones like BSIM, which I wrote that, and then BSIM seems to have evaporated, so I don't know. You'll have to ask Synopsys at their booth about that one. But you can do it yourself if you know what it is you're trying to do, what your goal is, and what you don't know, actually. So then you have to figure out what's the business appetite. Obviously, at the time when I built it, the business appetite was hire people really fast and put butts in seats and fingers on keyboards, and it's also more affordable if we can take the people we're already paying and not give them a raise because they're gonna learn all this stuff on the job. So that one was easy, but the commitment to the investment is a little bit trickier because organizational HR models are complicated, it turns out. So also, there's a cost to everything you do. It's not just like, wow, we took existing employees and now they're security professionals. There's training to think about, there's automation to think about, there's what can you train these people to do versus what do you need to outsource in order to keep things running and also to like give these people time to spin up the skills in order to do the job. So you can ask yourself, what areas of the business can be automated that aren't being automated? Where are we leaving money on the table, so to speak, by sort of shoveling water out of the boat instead of plugging the leak? And will that help fund or free up any existing resources? I tried contractors. It did not work. I fired 4. So you gotta get creative. Are any other areas overstaffed? Can they be reduced with automation? And how mad are people gonna be when you just open up a bunch of internal roles and then now a bunch of other teams are short-staffed? So you gotta get a little creative. You gotta communicate the commitment, and this is like not an unusual thing, I am told, to have leadership who pays a lot of lip service to security, but then when it comes down to actually prioritizing the things that need to get done, I see so many nods right now in the audience, so thanks, I'm not crazy. I mean, I am a little, but anyways, regularly, not just once, communicating commitment to security, and that doesn't just mean security is important, that means where's the time in the sprints? Are you burning down the debt and the backlog? Like, are you putting in time for threat modeling at the beginning of your sprint? Are you actually like making a story for a bad actor and trying to think through any of these problems to where we're not just like bolting security on? So at every level, that's executive, middle management, and at the team lead level, they need to be talking about it and they need to be putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak. And then you get the project sponsored, ideally. So yeah, it's gonna take work, it's gonna take people, it will cost things, it will save you money in some ways. In the long run, it's a really good investment, but there's gonna be some pain felt for a little bit. Oh yeah, I had animations. There they are. So where are your weaknesses? I lived and breathed this when I was trying to explain to leadership why it was so terribly underfunded and how insane it is to have 41 boxes of stuff you have to do in a secure SDLC and like one person to do them. So you've probably heard the phrase, when it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job, and that's because people can't just assume, yeah, we're doing compliance, we did a due diligence checklist at the end before we released. Really, you did. You did everything on that list, and you can prove it? No, you can't. So if you haven't seen this before, OWASP SAM V2, it's got kind of the 5 pillars, and then each of those security practices which have levels of maturity in them. So I have a handy-dandy Excel spreadsheet you can go through. It is so subjective, I warn you, so you can be as hard or as lenient on yourself as you'd like to be. I give you permission to be pretty hard on yourselves because that's how you're gonna convince leadership that you have major deficiencies. So we know that the answer to get better is to shift left and build security in, but how are we doing it? Are we prioritizing the right things or are we totally misdirected? And does that mean the same thing for each of these product teams and each of these business verticals? So, where are your blind spots? Do you know what you don't know? Because I can say there are still many things that we do not have like visibility and metrics into, or we have anecdotal or head nodding instead of actual data proving anything that we do or are not doing. So if you can sift through all of the variety of noise, that will help you at least determine where are the spots where this would be an effective investment. Are you secing the DevSecOps? So I know this sounds really buzzwordy, and I tried to make that better by picking a more colorful graphic than the regular infinity symbol. But you know you need to apply security checks as early as possible, regularly, throughout the development process. However, one thing that I don't think people realize, or at least try to drive, is the shift in responsibility that DevSecOps means. So I'm gonna ask for a little show of hands because this will be funny. In your companies, has there ever been a misperception that the security team is responsible for doing the security of the product? Yeah, that's a lot of you. So this is one thing that the PSL model has really helped with. I liked this term federated model. I actually read it in one of the BSIM reports, but it talks about your centralized software security group. You gotta have a security team, people that are doing the deep dive expertise, and then people that can mentor these people that need to grow up. But you've also got kind of this federated collection of people who now, I would say, we've got DevOps engineering, we've got our pipeline development team, we've got obviously people in GRCA that are in the club, tech support. But what it really means to me is if you've got your product security office at the top, and then you've got your development teams at the bottom, even if you have a security champions program, are they just diverting all of the security responsibility to the security champion? Because that still does not work. They all have to have a hand in what it means to secure things, because not everybody can be in every room or have eyeballs under the couch, in the back of your head, whatever. So matrixing kind of becomes a key idea here, because you've got your security team, you've got your divisions, and then you've got all of the other stakeholders that are part of this federation. So if you've got your product security lead reporting directly to this divisional leader, that's important because they're getting the information that they need to know about what's actually going on in their organization as far as security. So that's not just like, hey, I make your security reports and your dashboards and I email them to you once a week. It's like, no, I'm in your leadership meetings, I'm helping you with your strategy, I'm helping you prioritize where the weaknesses are in this particular division and where we need to get up to snuff. You've got your product security office. So that's the matrix part of it, where they are taking a lot of the strategic direction and prioritization from us. So now they got kind of a balancing act, where they've got their divisional priorities, but they're also responsible and accountable for making sure that the information flow is kind of going both ways. And then you've got the product teams. So they're regularly interfacing with the product teams. They've got regular syncs with their security champions in their areas. And then they've got all of the other stakeholders who are gonna be able to go directly to them now when they need something. The product security office isn't the bottleneck anymore. So we don't have to be the middlemen when, I don't know, someone from consulting now needs to know, well, does this product have this feature, and can you get me audit reports, and I'm doing due diligence. I don't have to deal with that anymore. They just go directly to the product security lead because they know all of the details about what's being done for all of their products. So roles and responsibilities then comes into play, because what is it a product security lead and what is it not really? And how much do they get paid? And is there a growth path? How are they different from architects? How are they different from this, that, the other? Well, security champion, at least in my company, and I believe in the model generally, is not really like an official job description or a role for most people. It's like they're a developer or they're a tester, and they're kind of the security champion for their area who's kind of like evangelizing it on their team. So security architects, they didn't have a role actually for that. We were systems architects for a really long time. So I had to do two things. I had to make a new role that was specific for security architects. Guess what? Different pay scale. So also a product security lead job description. And it has to flexibly accommodate the people that need to fit in there. It needs to have a career path, so you gotta have your senior associates, your careers, your seniors, your principals, and make it clear how they can get there. And then your internal recruiting plan needs to kind of make it clear, what is this role all about? Because you don't want people getting in there and then feeling like they've been kind of hoodwinked or misled, because that's a recipe for disaster. So you want to have a repeatable recruiting plan to like evangelize and socialize the role to where people understand what it is, they know what they're signing up for, but also you're getting the best candidates. So the role in the organization, while it reports directly to the division leadership, still has many other kind of miniature roles to play. So you've got to distinguish it from project managers, from security champions. And so the product security lead is guiding and partnering along with these development teams, but I'm gonna tell you, the pitfall, again, is when you get something like this, when you're like, oh, that person's full-time job is security, they're doing all the security for this now, they fix all the vulnerabilities in the code, and now that, no. So security champions are the ones on the teams. If they should be responsible for reviewing those scans. Ideally, developers should be involved in that, and they should be doing kind of the remediations of the vulnerabilities. It doesn't mean you get rid of security champions and now you just have your product security leads. This is an and situation. Sorry, I'm not passionate about that at all. So security champions still need to perform duties on their teams. Engineers still have to do their secure coding, secure design principles. Like, the product security lead shouldn't have to be reviewing everything. They're also not a compliance cop either. It's not their responsibility to make sure that these teams are doing their work. They're strategically helping them out. So they're working with the project managers, not to like track and monitor and control, but to make sure that things are effectively prioritized, organized, planned, and that security has a voice in project planning. So there's still a lot of this like mini matrixing going on where they're responsible for regularly interfacing with these people. Damn animations again. So what are the roles' responsibilities? What it is not. So strategy, execution. This is a bridge role, but it is still a strategic role. So one thing is secure architecture, secure design review. That is hard to learn, but once you have someone in that business vertical who then becomes an expert on the product architectures that they are building, it makes it a lot easier than when they're interfacing with the other divisions. Reduce, reuse, recycle. They can figure out what their paved roads are, and then they can also bring problems to the security team that we wouldn't have seen otherwise, because they're the eyeballs on the team. We also have them do secure design reviews for other areas too. So they don't just kind of get myopically focused, they still are getting the big picture of what the architecture of the products and solutions and platforms are. So, tools. So many security tools, all the time. But we also have to do POCs. So you're never done with security tools and techniques. There's always something new to check out, something's not working right, are we still making the right decisions? Ongoing process. We're switching this out, we need to implement something else. They are helping figure out what the teams are doing, what's not working well, what needs to work better, and they're also helping perform those cost-benefit analyses along with the product security tooling strategy set forth by the PSO. They're doing incident response. Log4j, woo! So they're helping out from tech support, who's bringing in our P-cert tracks. They are interfacing with project managers, developers, coders, tools, making sure that we know everything we need to know, everything gets documented correctly, and we do it as fast as we can. So they are regularly reporting on security posture and delving into key issues, both back to the product security office and to their divisional leaderships. They're doing regular communication and mentoring of security champions. We have product security office hours, so they come to those where developers, testers, and anybody else can ask questions, and they learn as well. So, what are they not supposed to be doing? So they're not supposed to be actually doing the scans for their product teams. That is a product team responsibility. If you wrote the bug, you should be scanning for it. You should be also responsible for making sure that the things that you choose to put in your product are secure and that you are following all of the rules and processes. It's not the product security lead's responsibility to do it for you. They are not the janitor. So they don't go in and actually remediate things that are found in the code. Incident response comes in. They will help you figure out a remediation plan and help you get it spun up and make sure that everything gets done. But they shouldn't be in the guts unless it really is all hands on deck when everyone needs to help. They are not the compliance cop. So they shouldn't be going around at the end of every release cycle, did you do this? Did you do this? Reviewing all of your artifacts. No. So they are also not responsible for making sure that you meet stuff. Like if a goal is set, reduce this amount of things or, I don't know, whatever it is that we're trying to do at the time, they are not responsible for making sure the teams do it. That's like the management responsibility, that's the team responsibility. And I've gotten a lot of flack from that here or there, saying, it seems like you spend more time talking about what security doesn't do than what you do. Well, yeah, because you gotta make it pretty crystal clear or else you get walked all over. I have found. So PSLs say the what, but product teams should be doing the how. So the PSLs strategically help the product security office strategize, design, research, and are having that kind of overarching view. Then the product teams and the security champions implement, monitor, remediate. Oh, sorry. I don't know what I just pressed. So how does it scale product security? Well, if the developers and the testers are the team players, they're the ones that are responsible for secure coding, testing, review, remediate. The team leader level, project manager, security champion. So they're executing on that strategy, they're enforcing the policy. Division leaders, interpreting policy, setting divisional strategy. That's the PSL game, because before, it was just PSO at the top, making decisions, and team leaders not necessarily being experts in security architecture or security strategy, kind of figuring out how to follow the roadmap. So, what does that PSL do? They're leading that security strategy, they're mentoring their security champions, they're translating PSO initiatives into team execution, and they're developing specialized security knowledge for that business vertical, and growing in secure design review and threat modeling expertise. So, key difference, strategy versus detail, champions implement, and PSL strategize. So, when you're choosing candidates, what's gonna make a good PSL? Well, we haven't hired any externally, mostly because we went on a hiring freeze. But from the internal candidates, a strong track record of execution and relationship building. So if they're good with their teams already and they've got a good rapport, you can probably say they're gonna do a good job here. But also on the entire spectrum of the team, it's a diversity of perspective and a mixture of skill sets. I'm gonna tell you, our documentation product security lead has turned into one of the best security architects that we have. She did not come from software development, and it's pretty amazing. So training and mentoring, what does that look like? First of all, your product security office has got to support these people. You gotta set up onboarding, training, all of the security things that are going on and that should be going on, they gotta know that. Weekly presentations, so touch points, especially in this remote world, they need to feel connected both to each other and to you. But like at least I had to make that clear right away. I'm only one person. I can't have one-to-ones with 20 people every week. So like you guys gotta learn to lean on each other. Set up forums for them like Microsoft Teams. So we do best practices, demos, we have guests come in, and then we just kind of talk about deep dive initiatives and strategies that we're putting together. Maybe they'd like to help. Weekly open forums. So this kind of came about of people need to vent, man. So you just gotta have a place for them to come and tell you about how terrible everything is and then ask for your advice or maybe just somebody to sob with. Also, every week is something different. If there's a crazy incident response thing going in, you gotta have some time carved out because everyone's calendars just go nuts. And you know, if there's nothing going on and nobody wants to meet, cancel it. But it's good to have that water cooler sort of environment. So how do we train them? This was a journey because every single training thing that we were already paying for did not have any good AppSec or product security stuff. Had to build that from the ground up. It was awful. So the bottom level is kind of still that product team / everyone who is touching code or involved in it in any way level, the practitioner. Engineer, applying the security principles. So that's your OWASP top 10. That's all the jazz of actually doing like secure code review and how to not introduce cross-site scripting bugs. Security champion, security tools and technologies. So at that level, anybody who's actually like in the guts of using the security tools, maybe they're threat modeling or leading those initiatives at that product team level, that's them. So then at the top, this kind of security FTE, developing security leadership, obviously everybody had to go through all those other levels first, but then that's like CSSLP, CISSP. Not to brag, we've added 25 CSSLPs. Security professionals. So I think the key takeaway is the hardest metrics to actually prove that you are doing, which is fostering product security culture. I know we've probably mostly seen those memes about how security is always no, and security is the bad guy, they're the barrier to all the fun things development wants to do. No, we're your friend. You want them to call security when there's a question you can help with. You don't want them to hide from you. So get them collaborating early on security design. Get them engaging the security champions. At least for us, that program kind of needed a reboot because it had been just like doing its thing for a while. They weren't really like coming to any of the office hours, except 2 really vocal ones. And you need them to increase visibility. So like getting people talking about security is half the battle. Like having at those leadership and strategy levels, at those scrum planning, retrospectives, any of that stuff, carve out, like here's the status of security, here's what we're working on, here's the problems that we've noticed, and actually start reviewing that information regularly with leadership. And I know I already said, when it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job, but it actually is everybody's job, so if you just kind of clarify those roles and responsibilities, it really makes it easier to make people do stuff. So I took some direct quotes from the product security leads, because you know, they're not here, but I'm kind of talking about how awesome they are, because they've been the ones doing the job, especially when I was gone with a baby and stuff. So, division leadership like the product security leads as a single security point of contact. So they include them in their leadership status updates teams. They can directly delegate kind of security issues to the product security leads and know that they're gonna get tackled by someone who now has the training, the knowledge, and the resources to figure it out instead of a developer who's gonna have to go down a security rabbit hole. They can receive clear, meaningful, and timely updates, which they could also get from project managers, but they get the context, which is pretty important. The collaboration is key. The project managers like collaborating with the product security leads because then they feel like they don't get surprised and slapped in the face by a bunch of security things to do. when they really didn't plan for them. I don't know if you knew this, project managers don't like surprises. I used to be a project manager. Discussing security initiatives and requirements as soon as the information is available helps their cadence planning. What's improved? Time to remediation is much, much smaller now because everybody knows what to do, and now because they've lived through the pain points of incident response, you have more people looking at ways to improve it instead of just whinging to the security team. They actually take the initiative to work together to solve it. We didn't have baseline reference architectures for all of these products and all of these divisions because that would have taken 4 security architects like 10 years. Now, we actually have them because the product security leads are driving them. And vulnerability management and product security compliance is much better because there's actually someone pinpointing it and explaining to leadership regularly where things are falling short. So defining success criteria. Vision, support, and mentors. You've got to have the vision kind of clearly laid out. Spending that planning time, describing those roles, responsibilities, program goals on the front end is going to save you a lot of pain later. You got to also carve out that time for support. We had an awesome program manager who was able to sort of be that nexus point for making sure that the program was clearly together and also be like the point of contact for questions and to chase down resolution for issues that product security leads were helping. Training. So if you don't have budget for training, I really wouldn't recommend doing what I did because it was such a pain to make like hundreds of hours of training. I'm still scarred. But I did think that the mentorship was really, really key to making sure that they feel supported, they feel heard, they don't feel like alone in their struggle, either when they just need to vent or when they don't understand what they're doing. But you know, it's not perfect either. There are plenty of complaints, and usually those are the first things people like to talk about. But decision-making and leadership conversations, it's hard to get security in the room sometimes. That's like that culture change that I really think over time gets better when security people are trusted to be in the room and provide input at key planning times, because man, it sucks when you can't get a security person in the room and then they make some really bad decisions and then you have to make them undo them, and it just really messes up your release cadences. Matrix mismanagement. Multiple managers providing feedback, assessing performance, assigning goals and priorities. You can really say that this all boils down to communication, which it turns out is like harder than it looks. And then the burnout. Your key security experts, the ones who are actually on tap for mentoring these people, helping them solve problems, reviewing all their secure design work, that is a bear. So it can burn out your existing security experts, especially if they're not the type of people that like to do that. So what's kind of the next phase of this? I'm going to take you back to that idea of the federated model of the shift to responsibility back into secking the DevSecOps. So still got your PSO at the top, trying to trickle down to get that organizational strategy, vision, and policy down into those teams, but also getting the teams, if they're doing everything correctly, your data's getting better, your metrics are getting better, you have more power to make the decisions that need to happen. So I think eventually security champions are not really gonna be like as much of a thing, because your developers and your testers are all basically security champions. They all know what they need to be doing. You don't have to have a dedicated person on the team. Everybody knows how to answer the questions for a basic threat model. Everyone knows how to make good, sound judgment on risk-based decisions. And you're really kind of like doing it. So apply what you have learned today. Define target operating model. Know what you need to know. Define the roles and responsibilities. What do you have? What do you not have that you need to address in order to get this working? Who are you looking for? What are the right kind of people who are going to succeed in this role and thrive there? Training and mentoring. Set up a structure via Teams, Slack, meetings, whatever it is, to make sure they have the tools they need to succeed and feel supported. And then you will have freshly minted security professionals. So if I were you, and if you don't already know this, next week, figure out how you want to review your security posture for areas of weakness and assess your business appetite for change or restructuring. Is this something that is going to support? Are you growing at a rate? Maybe there's more stuff spinning up than your people can keep an eye on. This is a good framework to build into that growth pattern. If things start to spin up, earmark a product security load. In the first 3 months, define that target operating model. If you've done your maturity model, you should know where you need to focus. You can define the matrix management model. Is leadership supportive of this? Because they're getting another direct report. They're gonna like it, I promise. But what differentiates your PSLs from other roles that you already have? How's it different? How's it adding value? And within 6 months, make that plan with HR. So if they've got to do their comp review, if they've got to figure out their internal recruiting plan, all of that stuff has to be planned, and you have to have a path for how you are going to train them up. Are there questions? That's not my cat.
So, as someone who comes from a company that has a very similar structure to yours, I think a product security lead program could be very beneficial for us. I'm just wondering, what backgrounds did product security leads come from within the organization, and do you see product security leads hiring any direct reports to support them?
So I think going back to that idea of you need the diverse mix of skill sets to make the entire program work. So we had one from documentation that was a technical editor. We had an ex-project manager who'd been a test engineer. We had a developer. We had an ex-director who was working on, honestly, I can't remember. Anyway, so they did all come mostly from like senior to principal level roles, but that's because you need someone with enough perspective and experience to make those strategic visions. Like they've got to see the forest for the trees, so to speak. From tiny acorns, mighty oaks grow. Did I answer your question?
Love this idea, by the way.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for sharing. So the way that kind of the model that I've used in the past is I actually have people on my team that are basically this role, like they have their own division that they cover, call them security partners. So what I'm curious about this model is who tasks them? Do they kind of have like two bosses, right? Because they report to somebody, but then the PSO is also in charge of kind of the work that they do, et cetera. So how does that work out in this model?
So personally, I like the matrix management model and also having them report directly to the divisional leadership, because first of all, that gives divisional leaders more, I guess, incentive to interface and negotiate with the product security office when they need to ask questions or like when they need to know what they should be working on next or what they need to prioritize. So it can get complicated, like I said, when you have quote unquote two bosses, but like not really, because the buy-in is important to begin with. Like we have roadmaps for secure design reviews. We have roadmaps like for penetration testing, for what we put in our bug bounty environment. So that gets socialized with divisional leadership, and we kind of set the expectation of, hey, your product security lead needs to be like chunking this amount of time to our strategic initiatives, and then they can like bargain with us at that point where they're like, well, no, I really need them focusing on this like tooling migration and implementation because we have this problem with our pipeline. Then you can say, all right, then we know he's focusing on that. We won't be assigning this, that, and the other to them. And then we also encourage time tracking, which is annoying, but it really helps for secure design review metrics, because once you start to gather that intelligence and metrics over time, it helps you figure out how to better negotiate with them to know what that person should be working on. And at least a couple of them, like I have stop, sorry. But I was told that there's no one else coming into this room, so can I continue Q&A? Is that cool? Can do. So, did I answer your question?
I think so. Maybe I'll catch up with you after.
Yeah, I wrapped it up. Cool. And I'll answer your question out there, or over here. Thank you, guys. Hey, one quick favor. Can you fill out the survey for me? Because they told me that since I'm a first-time speaker, if you liked the presentation, that lets them know that I don't suck, and maybe I can come back again. So thank you, guys.